Hello, Kensington Knights. Today we're going to look at questions that can help you think analytically about the text. Ways that we can do that is to either divide the text into parts, select and rank things that happen in the text, or compare. Okay, questions. The first thing you're going to do is set up your Reader's Workshop notebook. Page number, title, I can statement, these two inserts, and don't worry about this stuff. I'll tell you what that's all about as we get into the lesson. So go ahead and hit pause and get your notebook set up. You'll have questions that help you think analytically and 5 elements of a story. So for our mini lesson, we can divide our literature into parts by looking at the 5 elements of the story, the plot, which is all the action that happens, the characters, the setting, and we're doing all this because we're leading up to the theme, and then we can look at the type of conflict. We can also select and rank things. So for example, when we were comparing and contrasting our characters, I chose the character traits that the characters reflected the most. So although Keck had many character traits, the one that he reflected the most was being hopeful. And although Ganwar had many character traits, the one that was shown the most was being discouraged. Okay? So that's what selecting and ranking looks like. And then you can compare, which we have done that before. So what does this look like? It kind of looks like keeping track of everything or all the important stuff that happens in the text. So for example, keeping track of the different settings inside the text, because we can compare how the settings influence the characters. So for example, Keck was in shock when he was at the airport because it was just complete culture shock overload. Then in the apartment, he felt a little home, but not completely home. And then at school, and finally, he finds some peace and confidence at Lou's place. Then here are the different characters, and I rate them according to the character trait that they showed the most. So for example, Keck is mostly hopeful. Ganwar is mostly discouraged. The aunt is mostly tired. Dave is mostly helpful. Hannah is mostly his friend. Miss Hernandez is his ESL teacher. And Mr. Franklin, these two weren't characterized by their character traits because we don't really see enough of them. However, they were characterized by their roles. So the more we know about the character, the more we can select and rank with the character. And then we're examining the conflict. And when we look at conflict, there are 2 parts to the conflict. There is the problem, and then there is the solution. And so I rank these according to the problems that seem to be the biggest obstacles. So I didn't include every problem in the text, but I did include the problems that seemed to be the largest. So the cold was the most shocking to him. What was the solution? Dave gave him gloves and a coat. And then the kid mocks Keck for drawing a cow. What was the solution? He chose to be comforted by the sound of the cows. Ganwar's missing a hand and the dishes. What's the solution? Well, there is no solution for Ganwar missing a hand, but there is a solution for the dishes, and that's get a job to pay things back. Ganwar needs a job. Keck asks if Ganwar can split the job with Keck. And so those are the different problems and solutions that we find within Home of the Brave. Okay, and you'll want to make sure that you show up for guided practice because we're going to look at more conflict, more problems, and more solutions. So today, boys and girls, our learning target is I can think analytically about the text by using a lens to either divide the text into parts, and when we talk about that with literature, we're talking about the elements of the story. I can select and rank certain parts in the text. And when we're ranking things, we can rank them according to most important to least important, or least important to most important, just depending on how you want to do that. And then comparing the settings, comparing events, comparing problems, comparing characters. Those are all things that we do when we think analytically about the text. So what are your expectations for today? You want to use these strategies to think analytically about the text, and this is what your stop and jot might look like about your book of choice. After deconstructing the story, I realized that Keck's small conflict about the dishes helped Ganwar and his quest for a job. I think that is an idea for growing a theory. I think small problems sometimes lead to big solutions. So let's go back to our notebook so you can see what I've done. Here are the settings. Here are the characters with their biggest character trait. This is my problem and solution chart. Again, to be able to find that middle line, you can fold the paper in half. And then down at the bottom, that was my conclusion. After deconstructing the story, I realized that Keck's small conflict about the dishes helps Ganwar in his quest for a job. I think this is an idea for growing a theory that small problems sometimes lead to big solutions. Remember, your stop and jots will be about today's learning target in your book of choice. You'll use these strategies to come up with a stop and jot that looks similar to this. I look forward to seeing you during the guided practice on Teams Live. Until then, read on, Knights.